Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Om. Salutations to Bhagavan Ramakrishna. Girish, Ghosh. We continue this great actor's life. He's not only an actor. I mean, there was a review. I'll read the review in the newspaper then. That says that the audience is so carried away during the whole representation that they forget themselves and consider themselves to be really in the midst of these real sights and scenes. So he had that capacity to bring the audience, to pull the audiences along with him in his various, you can say, acting or his writings. So his original plays, I mean, he was massively kind of energetic and creative. So his original plays, there were 80 of them. And his unfinished plays were about 8. His other works, adaptation from other various, you can say, literature, about 11. He wrote about little over 1,300 songs. So he used to write his own songs. He wrote articles, short stories, etc., numbering into hundreds. And from 1969 till 1911, he worked with various theaters. He owned some of them partially also, and he was one of the shareholders also. And in his entire career, he played about 62 different roles. Amazing. His works were translated in French and English, etc. And his works today comprise 5 large volumes. He was not only a brilliant actor and a playwright, but he was also a director. And that was one of those, can say, his natural talents. But he was, as I say, a maverick. And the Puritans of that society then used to attack him because of his songs and poetry and all used to have a blank verse, which was kind of something which was not liked by the classical poets, etc. Moreover, what he did was, in those days, boys used to play the roles of girls. And he knew that it will never be the same. Girls have to play the role of girls and boys have to play the role of boys. And no respectable girls would ever get into this kind of dramas and theatrical companies in those days. That time it was considered, oh my God, something sinful. So what he did was he got all these prostitutes to play the roles of girls. And he trained them. And not only trained them, he also, in a way, wrote his plays, because most of them were not educated. They knew a smattering of reading and writing. He tailored his dialogues so that they can easily recite them and learn. And one of them says, Tinkari, I was an illiterate girl. It was by his grace that I am now an actress. And another actress says, how father, they used to call Girish as father, Baba, as they say. He brought about a revolution in the life of womanhood in general. Women were in terrible penury. Instead of being forced down into the abyss of prostitution, they were now rescued by the stage. But Father did not stop there. He brought them all and made them into devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. That was the greatest thing. And one of the things that we find in Girish's life, he never apologized for his past sins, or you can say mistakes. He tried to whitewash them. No. So, and what happened was, he stayed along with those old bohemian friends of his, companions, and he transformed them. That was another part of his life. People say, oh, he was like this, he was like, he was creating a kind of a social revolution in the circles of such people, in the field of dance and music and poetry and drama, as well as even in such circles where people, they try to whitewash these things. So even after he had come to Sri Ramakrishna and after his great transformation, says, Swami Turiyananda says that, he testifies, saying, Girish was the most religious of us all. He lived as he said he would, by the promptings of the indweller. So that's Antaryami. His soul was his real guide. Now, being an actor and a playwright and a director, one needs to not only be creative, but one has had to experience most of the things that you are going to write. Otherwise, you're not going to write. The first job of a writer is, the writer should know what the writer is speaking about. So when you write something or try to depict something, some emotion or some character, that director must have lived, or the playwright must have lived through those emotions. And as we have seen, he went through a great crisis in his life, deaths, diseases, friends dying. He was kind of a social pariah. And he faced various circumstances, adverse circumstances. So he used to say later on, by God's grace, I have seen all types of characters, from the lowest prostitutes and devotees to a highly venerable avatar. Then he says, the whole world is a vast stage, and the theatre is its microscopic form. So this was his impact on society during that time. And that's the reason why, when he was willing to let go of all his work, Sri Ramakrishna forbade him. No, you're doing some good to the world. Keep on doing that. You don't need to give it all up. Generally what happens is, like you write a play and then you cast the actors, etc., according to the roles. Girish Ghosh used to do exactly opposite. He used to first get the ensemble, the actors together, actors and actresses. Now it's called just actors. And then studying them, reading their, you can say, body movements, body language, and this and that. And he used to write the play. So his play was written for the actors to be in their elements. So therefore, it's said that he never only helped to found a Bengali stage, but he built it. As it's like he built the chariot as well as a path to it. before writing any play, he thoroughly read every available literature on that. And sometimes his room used to resemble a library. When a particular topic was being kind of discussed or kind of going to be written about, he read everything thoroughly. So that was his trait. He used to just plunge into that particular aspect of what he did. He was no half-hearted, no halfway house here. So when he used to write about even history or even about old mythological stories, most of them, his plays were based on either mythology, I mean, that was current. These stories were current, all history, and the other kind, sometimes a smattering of other comedy also. So tragedy, comedy, and tragicomedy. But most of his plays had a spiritual, you can say, theme always. So he was a voracious reader, and he read, and then only when he was convinced, confident that he knew everything about the subject, more or less, he would write. And he used to tell the actresses then, saying, see, Sri Ramakrishna had come for all of us. And he even blessed actresses with the words, "Oh, mother, be illumined." So that's why they say Girish was such a genius that he wrote over 90 plays, yes, composed songs for them. And that is integral in any play. In India, if you don't have a song, that movie is a flop, or the play is a flop. So that's why you have Bollywood. Bollywood movies are just running it up, singing songs. They don't take life so seriously also. Sometimes it becomes serious, but they are just... And the movie is known for the songs. Yes, some of the songs run, even today, you remember songs which are 50 or 60 years old. You can still, the tune is right there. So he used to write this play, compose the music also, songs, selected and directed the actors and actresses, managed the stage design, oversaw the costume design, instructed the dancing and music teachers, and he also gave financial advice to the owners of the theaters. So he became like that, possessed. When he was directing or when he's training the actors, he used to read the script to them and used to see their reaction, what the reactions were, whether they're absorbing. But after he began writing his plays, till the play was done repeatedly, of course, it was enacted, he used to be immersed with that mood constantly. So he says, an actor's first duty is to wander in the realm of ideas and imagination. And then he says, and to lift the audience to that realm. So he says, how do you do that? Meditation. People say, now, oh, what's meditation? Meditation, yeah. So you see, he felt that meditation was important in order to imbibe those ideas. And that's what he says, that the actor's first duty is to wander in the realm of ideas. As we have seen, all these various aspects of these bhavas, of dispositional states of mind, they have a corresponding effect on the body, and that corresponding effect on your own body has another kind of corresponding effect on the audience. If the audience is not touched by your expression or your kind of body language, your acting is flat. When the actor weeps, you will weep. When the actor laughs, you're going to laugh. If the actor is heroic, you're going to feel heroic. This is what is called bhava in Indian dramatology. And a lot of attention was paid for this. And then he says, while acting, an actor divides his mind and focuses it in two ways. With one half of his mind, he remains absorbed in his own role, and with the other half, he becomes a witness. At that time, he watches how he is absorbed in this role, the delivery of his speech, the reaction, the dialogue of his co-stars, and whether his voice is reaching the last row of the theatre. He learns all these things through training and practice. He used to train them, all of them. And in those days, pre-mic days, no microphones, you had to use lung power. And you know, it's difficult to use lung power as well at the same time have a kind of a expression that, you know, which is corresponding to the role. So you got to really shout. And so he was much loved. As I said, he used to take up people who were outcasted, the downtrodden, you can say despised people. Bring them up, train them, and make their life worthwhile living. And this is what he did. That's why they say, even after all these years, today even, no stage actor or actress ever goes on the stage without bowing down to Sri Ramakrishna. So he introduced Sri Ramakrishna today also. It's there. He is the patron saint of all the actors and the stage. So this was Girish as an actor and director. We'll see how his atheism also affected his life and his thoughts. You know, people say, oh, I'm an atheist. You cannot wish yourself to be an atheist. You've got to go through a lot of intellectual honesty, struggles, and then you come to a conclusion that there is no God. Nowadays it's a fashion. I'm an atheist. No, you have not struggled morally, spiritually, intellectually to come to this stage of atheism. And that's why everything is kind of a hollow word. I don't believe in God. Yeah, it's like you only. Everything is so kind of superficial. Girish was not like that. He read every book on atheism. He used to argue, he used to debate with the best, you can say, people there, the believers. And he's saying, first is, you know, he had a huge ego, obviously, you know, and he had exuberant energy. And he used to refuse to believe God, saying, not only that, I'll fight against his will. People say it's God's will. I'm going to fight against. It's not a, you know, kind of a closeted atheist. Everything, I don't know God's will or whatever. You know, if there is no God and there is no will, and people say, I'm going to fight against that. So, and as it was his habit, whenever he was told, don't do that, he used to deliberately do that, just to see what was the truth in this. But say, you know, they say, atheist, they are nice people, you know, that's a good thing. They think more of God than the theist. And Swamiji was very clear. It's better to be an atheist than be a hypocrite. So, because they have to have their arguments like, you know, watertight. There should be no leakage anywhere. So they think more of God, they read more about God, and they bring out all the arguments. They also bring out the various foibles of the scriptures as well as the preachers, and that's what used to happen. It is not that I'm an atheist, I will not go anywhere. I will not listen to any arguments in favor of God. He used to go. But he found one preacher denouncing the other preacher. You go to this organization, and then after some time you go, so that guy is denouncing this. So he's saying, listen, what is this? This guy, idea of God is being denounced by that fellow's idea of God. So he went around to the Brahmo Samaj and also, but he found them not deep enough for him, because he wanted something that will touch his soul. And these kind of people are very deep. Suffering makes you very deep. Suffering gives you knowledge about yourself. If you have not suffered, you'll never be great. You'll never be understanding of people. Though he was an alcoholic drinker, people say, oh, Girish Ghosh, he did all these things. But we don't see his other side, his magnanimity, his creative side, and how he struggled with his own, you can say, beliefs. Whether to believe in God or no God. Though he was a drinker, he never encouraged his friends to become like him. No. He used to warn his friends, don't be drinking so much. Okay. Generally what happens if one person has got a habit of drinking, he will get 20 people. This guy is a kind of a drug addict, he'll get more people. The more the merrier. So that is what? Build up the coterie. Here, Girish wasn't like that. So this is a kind of a departure from the normal person who loves intoxicants. He knew the dangers of this. So he was, after checking out all these various traditions, religious traditions and preachers, he was convinced, if God exists and religion is indispensable for human life, it should be free and should be open. Like sunlight, water, and all these air and all these, this is necessary for life. And if religion is essential for life, it should be open. What is this thing of hidden, something esoteric, something, secret that we won't tell you? What is this kind of religion? He was not for this type of religion. But one thing he had was his devotion to his parents. So his parents had passed away. And in India, whenever you go to have a bath, like in the stream, you cup water, the river water, Ganges, and offer them to your parents, your ancestors, etc. Okay. So this is saying, if religion is indispensable, as these guys say, for life, why isn't it available to everybody? So this was what he's saying. At the same time, the more you get religious, and the more you keep on advancing, what happens is your doubt also correspondingly grows. You have that doubt. And as the Upanishad says, only at the last instance where doubt is kind of cut. Vidyate hridaya granthi chiddati sarva. When the knots of the heart have been cut asunder, all doubts have dispelled. When you see that which is the higher and the lower, that's a reality. So he used to argue like this, but then there was always a doubt. Suppose God exists. Maybe if I was wrong, that God does not exist, maybe I was wrong. So this created a kind of a mental turmoil in him. First he said, life is ephemeral. It's going up. And what is the answer? So he, as I said, he went through life with those ideas. But life is not a smooth thing. No life is ever smooth. The smooth life, peaceful life. People want peaceful. How is it possible? Have it peace? It's not possible. Forget the idea of peace. Because there is grief, there are diseases, there is old age, and there are so many things. Accidents, exploitations, this, that, lies, cheating. And people want peace. How is it possible? What kind of utopia this is? It's not possible. As long as you have life, you have to struggle. So instead of seeking peace, you might as well pray for strength to struggle. That is life. Okay. So in all this, he used to say, I had to struggle, and then, my enemies were always ready to kind of bring me down. And because he was a good man, it's not that he was bad, just because he used to drink and take drugs and he was a debauchee and all, is a bad man. People, they put labels there. But he had a very large heart. And people were beginning to exploit his large-heartedness. So he say, so at that one point of time, see, he started his acting career when he was 23. At 32, he became kind of established as a playwright, director, etc. And these thoughts kept on gnawing at him. He lived this kind of life, his creative side, till he died at 68. He never slowed down. So his family deity was Krishna. And he's saying, so once he says, in a hopeless situation, he mentally prayed, oh Lord, if you exist, please reveal yourself to me. Now this is coming from the depths of his heart. And you see, he was against the idea of a human guru. How can that? This guy is a human being like me. How can this guy be thought of as God? The guru is Brahma, guru is Vishnu, guru is Mahadeva. Gurureva param brahma tasmai si gurave namaha. So how can a human being? So I will take Shiva. Shiva is the God, the great God. So he said, and he started praying to Shiva. Now, people say, oh, I pray to Shiva. He wasn't that type. No? So like he said, he went full steam ahead with his beliefs. So he's saying, he grew a beard, he did not cut his hair, he bathed in the Ganges every day and began worshipping Shiva, eating vegetarian food. And during the Shivaratri, he walked 40 to 50 miles to a Shiva temple. It's a very famous Shiva temple called Tarakeshwar. And it's not a walk. You got to walk barefoot, and you have to carry the water that you're going to offer. And if you see, even today, it's like mad. A few hundred thousands of people stream towards that temple. And he kept this up for months. And slowly he started feeling the presence of God in his heart. And this he's saying, and he made, that was changing him. He says, I quote, I am making 100 years of spiritual progress in one day. Because he was so intense and intense and sincere. So let's see if this is what it is. Let's see. He used to go on every Tuesdays and Saturdays, which is the auspicious day for the mother worship. He used to go to the Kali Ghat. Now, Kali Ghat is it's a very famous Kali temple in Calcutta. Oh my God, you must go to see that. Maddening crowds. Everything is kind of oof. So he says, there came a time when this transformation was beginning, he wanted to have a direct vision of God. And so he began going to Kali Ghat. He would sit down near the sacrificial place. There is a kind of a small kind of altar where, things that were brought to Kali were sacrificed. And so he used to sit down there. And that place is not a very ideal place to sit down. It is like dirty with all those the offerings and this and that. So he used to sit down there and spend whole nights there praying. So he's saying he followed his routine and slowly a current of devotion began to flow in his heart. And not only sit down there, he used to pray, he used to sing. He was a composer, he was a singer, and he was everything. So he used to sing some of his songs. They are so touching. Some of the songs are still sung in many of our, in our order, of course, in many of our programs and all. So very intense. The songs to Shiva, at Kali, etc. So he prayed, stayed awake, sang songs to Kali. And now he had developed so much faith in Shiva and in Kali that he could cure people just by the name of God. And this was, he's saying, and of course he had tremendous willpower. So, willpower, and he had that faith. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Girish's faith is 125%. Percentage is 100%. So it was overflowing. So he had faith, and that was what gave him this kind of this power. And of course he knew that it was the divine power, and he used to cure people with just these, and even serious diseases, just by taking the name of God. We try to do this Sri Ramakrishna also, don't worry. When Sri Ramakrishna was ill, the last word, and Sri Ramakrishna forbade him, get out, don't. So I'm going to take away your disease, and here I'm. Sri Ramakrishna forbade, get out. So he was like this. And this was how he lived that, we all live our double lives. But one life is a little more real than the other. Other is imaginary. Other is a kind of a semblance of this. Sometimes we have built up such huge imaginary worlds in our minds that we go there and we are very happy about it. So we transition from that imaginary world to the real world, and this real world is, when it is too kind of pressing us with troubles, we escape to the imaginary worlds. So what happens is, in Girish's case, he never had what was inside or outside also. There was no simulation, there was no hypocrisy. This is what I am. And Whether you like it or no, I don't care. Okay. So he was genuine. And when he said there's no God, he genuinely believed that. Not like half-hearted people. And when he said there is a God, he generally believed. He had that faith, and that was what happens. He started instilling this faith that there is a God in people. You're saying, okay, now I am satisfied. Okay, now God exists. But can you influence others? If you cannot, that means you have not been fully convinced of God's existence. Like when he was an atheist, he used to fight against God and he used to fight against his will and he used to convince people that there is no God. So that was his play. So then he switched. This is what he did. And he was very fluent in English also. That is one of the things. One of the few disciples of Sri Ramakrishna who was extremely fluent in it. It was Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, of course, he did not like the idea of studying English at all. But later on, he did because there was a necessity. But he knew the advantage of it because he had translated Shakespeare's Macbeth. And he had also enacted the play. So he was efficient enough to translate Shakespearean English into Bengali. Okay. So this was how he says that this came out change. And he's saying, a strident atheist and now become a strident theist. Always shouting, Mother, Mother, Ma Kali, Kali, Karala Vadana. That is one of those mantras used for Kali. And his chest used to swell with tremendous vigor and his face used to beam with some kind of supernatural power. So his bhakti, his devotion was not kind of tepid or lukewarm, and he became that. So this is one of those things that he had. He became that particular. Because, what happens? Belief in God. This idea of belief in God is kind of, in Hinduism, it's the lowest rung of spiritual development. Belief in God. I believe in God. What believe in God? So that's why Hinduism or Vedanta, it does not stand on the, you can say, foundations of belief. This belief system, that belief system, this belief. It's not belief. Tomorrow, another belief system can take away all your other belief systems. And that's what's happening. So one belief system can counter another belief. So it's not a belief system. Vedanta is not a belief. You have to believe in something. No. Vedanta, Hinduism, whatever you like, is based on karma, an action. You've got to act out. And then you've got to keep on working, and that's what happened with him. It's not simply, I believe in God now. No. He worked out that idea. And this is the speciality. And it's when I first remember reading about him, I said, whoa, this is what a true Vedantist will be. He'll live his belief and he'll work it out in the field of his own life and the world. So this was him. He said, if you believe in God, you've got to be identified with that. Like, he had faith. So you have faith, something, it is not an external thing. I am different and the faith is different or belief is different. That's not. In Vedanta, you've got to unify that. That should become a part of you. And when it becomes a part of you, then you be that. People say, okay, you are that, okay. You've got to become that. And that, as I said, depends on your karma. You've got to work it out. On the physical level, on the mental level, on the verbal level, on the intellectual level, at all levels. Then only can religion or philosophy always be transformative. Then when sufferings and troubles come, the water on duck's back. You will not be thrown off balance. You won't kind of curse this and curse your luck and curse society and curse your neighbors and curse your family and curse everybody. Nothing. You'll become what it is. Like Swamiji said, I want a man-making religion. A person can stand him or her on their own feet and face life and help others. Okay. We stop here for today. Yeah, this book is kind of very exciting. So we'll go to some of the other exciting, you can see, aspects of his life. We continue that next Friday. Tomorrow at the retreat we have Karma Yoga. Tomorrow also is Saturday. It's celebrated as Lakshmi Puja. So those who are here, you can remember. Lakshmi Puja is celebrated after Diwali also, but so Karma Yoga at the retreat Tapovan from 10 to 1. Sunday, the topic will be the nature of nature. Okay. So at 10 a.m., Swami Satyamayananda will give this talk. And we have mothers, children at 9:50. We have a question here. Did Girish's, time for QA. Did Girish's brilliant intellect and brilliant intellect when it was directed to spiritual sadhana helped him to progress more rapidly than if he had only an average intellectual ability? Yes, it could be a big factor. It is actually a big factor. Because you use your intelligence to demolish the idea of God. You've got, like I said, you've got to really be sincere. You don't take other people's arguments. People generally, they take, there are mass of contradictions because they have just taken in undigested stuff from others. They don't have their own intellectual convictions. So yes, this is one big factor. And secondly, he had that faith. He had also that energy, that intensity. And he never shied away from any kind of fear or anything like that. If it is there, let's see, let's test it. That was his. So yes, his intellectual capacity and his deep, you can say, deep-seated identification with what he was doing. And he wasn't afraid of public or private criticism like we are. He wasn't bothered. So when a person at that stature, yeah, person becomes a kind of a leader. Okay. So do you have? Yeah.
When he was doing controversial things with bringing women on stage who were prostitutes, what was the public reception like? Who was showing up?
Oh yeah, the Puritans, they Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar was we have seen his great philanthropist, and he was one of the leaders of society. Rabindranath Tagore and another great. They had all disassociated themselves from the theatre and all this. Oh, look at this. But the general populace were all in favor of him. The elitist and those so-called the higher classes of people, they didn't come, but then everybody else was coming. And then once they began coming and they saw the plays are becoming popular, then those guys also dropped their all, you can say, ideas about Puritanism, and they started attending. So, like I said, he became a kind of a revolution there in society. And throughout his life, he never, you can say, went anything like half-heartedly, but then always he was generating newer and new ideas. So the people were all enthralled with new ideas and new plays and new songs and new this, nothing stale. So he became a kind of a movement, a one-man movement, yeah. And so, like I said, to get that authentic woman's role played by a woman, he had to bring in these women, and he changed their lives. Yeah.
So, I'm curious and kind of fascinated by the question of caste, and in his day was presumably Rabindranath Tagore was a Brahmin, and
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't.
No.
Sri Ramakrishna parents, he was Brahmin.
Yeah.
Poor,
Yeah.
but Brahmin. Was Girish also Brahmin?
No.
And can you explain a little bit? I mean, how significant was caste in his in his career and in his
No, in those days there was a kind of a rigidity of some of the rules, but the caste rules are based on your qualities and on your karma. A Brahmin is supposed to devote 95% or 90% of his life for spirituality only. So, how many people can do that? It's very difficult. They could not have any property. They could not cook even. They had to go out and beg. So society gave them a lot of prestige. They treated them like gods, and they were like gods. I've seen so many people. They were godlike. But the society stripped them of every other material possession. So these people lived only on the intellectual or the spiritual, you can say, level. Those who could not live up to that, they're the kind of a weekend religious people and all that. So then they became what is called the second caste of, it's not caste, it's more class. Because the Britishers, today's what we hear is a creation of the British colonialism. It was divide and rule. So each person, according to his ability, his or her ability, character, and everything, fell into a certain class of work. And that's how they became, later on, they became kind of, okay, you are a soldier, you're a warrior, and you're a tradesperson, you're a worker, you're this, you're that. So slowly, it was like the people who could live in the spirit, they became a little elitist. Those who could live with their intellect and with their hands and feet and all. Work was divided. It was an organic whole. So initially there were these four castes, and it is not, in those days, it wasn't kind of watertight. It was very fluid. Later on, it became watertight. And then, like everything, why in India only? They were the Egyptian priest, and then the priest in Babylon, and the priest in Greece, priest in Rome. So there was always a priest class. That was what the Brahmins are called, the priestly class. Because society was mainly religious. So these people, then they started accumulating more and more power. So then they started a degeneration. So society in all, and then in all ancient societies, you had a warrior caste, class of people who could defend it. And then you had the merchants and the traders and all that. You had. So it is not only in India you find it all over the ancient world. It was there. It had to be there because society is nothing but a division of labor. So your hand will do the hand's work, not the feet work. Of course, there are people who can walk on hands. So it's a division of labor. And the whole world is nothing but a division of labor. These old, you can say, ideas it was not a religious idea. Later on it became, religion absorbed it. So these were social ideas. So to keep the social structure intact. That was what. And today we had these old systems. People criticize it. There were good points and the bad points also. But today we are still surviving. There are no Greeks, and the old Greek culture is gone. There are Greeks, of course. All the old civilizations have all gone. But we are still here. So when waves after waves of invaders started pouring into India for more than 500 years, what happened? Society built walls around themselves. And so the waves of invaders could just run over them and could not breach the walls. It was a kind of a battening down. We battened down, society went on into a kind of a protective mode. The moment the threat was taken off, all these things started dropping off. So people still take all these things and kind of take that and beat us with that. It has nothing to do with it. You see the great ideas that are in Vedanta. And people think like, oh, this is Vedanta. So it's a long topic. It has nothing to do with this. So you can see there were interactions between all types of people. When you're in a play, you have all types of people coming in, and they were working together. So there was no kind of restrictions. Oh, you're this, you're that. The Puritans were those I'm talking about. Those who were kind of, society was something like that. In India especially, you have to, if you become impure, society is going to be destroyed. Then that was the whole idea. It is purity, that it is holding on to truth that holds society. The moment you give it up, everything is gone. So this was an idea that, and some people said, oh, okay. And then, so those people used to stay away from Girish. But then later on, his genius itself was so much that he drew the people there. When Sri Ramakrishna himself goes to watch his plays, and not only Sri Ramakrishna devotees. So that was the breaking down of all those kind of restrictions. Okay. I hope it's a vast subject. Maybe we can sit down one day and talk about it. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.